Is Canada about to get plunged into another election? Almost definitely not. But the answer isn't no. See, MPs are voting on the throne speech tonight at 6:45 p.m. And that vote is something called a confidence vote. And if that vote fails to pass, it means the government has lost the confidence of the House, which usually means the government then falls and an election is triggered. But it's fine, even though the Liberals have a minority. I mean, I'm sure like the NDP or something will vote for the throne speech, right?
We are going to be voting no to the throne speech.
Oh, okay, but seriously, that said, you probably have nothing to worry about because the Bloc Québécois has already said that they will likely support this government until we have a deal figured out with the US. So realistically, there is not much to worry about here. While I am telling you things to assuage your anxiety, let me heal another thing for you. If you ever start to feel imposter syndrome, I need you to know that this man is now a Conservative MP. And if he can do that, I don't want any of you to ever doubt yourselves. Here are just a few clips from his first speech in the House of Commons.
I promise he has never read George Orwell's 1984, but this is exactly the 2 + 2 = 5 scene. I think about this scene a lot when I am told that men can get pregnant. You might think that I'm being overwrought and seeing the ghost of communism where it does not exist. However, I would note that we just spent 10 years with a prime minister who, when asked which government in the world he most admired, stated the basic dictatorship of the Communist Chinese Party. The zenith of all this top-down control came during the pandemic. The members opposite went full communism. The repackaging of their socialist plans in bankers' socks might fool some of the people some of the time. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals claimed onto themselves the power to censor the news, to violate free speech in the name of fighting misinformation, while they themselves promoted misinformation. They gave luxurious contracts to their friends in academia to promote their misinformation. They gave hundreds of millions of dollars to mainstream media to promote government narratives. I read his book, Mr. Speaker. The book was called Values, and freedom, I'm sorry to say, is not among those therein discussed.
Yeah, look, I don't even know where to start with debunking this, other than to say that this guy clearly doesn't know what socialism or communism are, and he, despite being a physician, doesn't understand the difference between sex and gender. It's not a huge surprise, though, because this is the same guy who, according to court documents, said that I would sooner give my children COVID-19 than a McDonald's Happy Meal. And he's also alleged to have tried to bypass screening at a hospital when COVID was incurable and vaccines were not yet available. That's according to a statement of defense from Queen's University, who Strauss filed a lawsuit against because he says that he had no choice but to resign because of, quote, malicious, aggressive, condescending, and defamatory statements made about him. And he got a little help from his friends. Anyways, yeah, he's a Conservative MP now, so please, never feel like an imposter. And he is not the only one making an ass out of himself publicly in the last day or so. People's Party leader Maxime Bernier got some of that attention he constantly begs for by being even more racist than usual. He called temporary foreign workers, quote, parasites, dehumanizing language that led to swift condemnation from folks who served in a Conservative government with him before he narrowly lost the leadership to Andrew Scheer and bailed to start his even further right party. I believe that's what we call a sore loser. Anyways, before all of that happened, Bernier actually briefly served as industry minister and foreign affairs minister in Stephen Harper's government. But Jason Kenney, who was also a cabinet minister during the Harper years, and Erin O'Toole, who was first elected in 2012 and later went on to lead the party, both chimed in to condemn their former colleagues' disgusting rhetoric, with Kenney calling it, quote, grotesque and purposefully hateful, while O'Toole said Bernier, quote, fell off the reality wagon many years ago, adding, quite sad. Meanwhile, David Parker, who is credited with helping to crown Danielle Smith as Alberta Premier with his team at Take Back Alberta, seemed to defend Bernier's rhetoric. Not a huge surprise from that guy, who, I should mention, Danielle Smith has publicly distanced herself from. But it is good to see people on the political right being willing to call out Maxime Bernier's racism and dehumanizing language. In other news, we should probably talk about tariffs. Trump has doubled his steel and aluminum tariffs to 50%. That's a big problem, because the 25% tariffs that were already in place have already caused job losses and impacted exports. A trend that is sure to get even worse if this isn't quickly reversed. In response to this latest development, Ontario Premier Doug Ford actually kind of bailed on his usual Team Canada approach, although he did finish this press conference by saying the Team Canada line again. But he told reporters at Queen's Park that Canada can't sit back and let Trump, quote, steamroll us, and that we have to react react, quote, immediately. Meanwhile, Carney and his government said they're going to have to take some time with this, although he did add not much, but said that this is because they are currently engaged in intensive discussions with the Americans about trade.
We will take some time, not much, some time, because we are in intensive discussions right now with the Americans on the trading relationship. Those discussions are progressing.
Anyway, we'll see what happens, but this is a really scary time for so many people whose jobs are on the line, and it is truly pathetic that Trump's unwillingness to understand the global trade system is impacting so many people on such a personal level. So we will all be watching this story closely. Speaking of watching things closely, after Mark Carney's Justice Minister Sean Fraser suggested Indigenous groups wouldn't have a veto on these national projects we've been hearing so much about, which includes talk of pipelines and much more, he has now apologized. See, Canada has adopted the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, which requires free, prior, and informed consent from Indigenous folks on issues impacting their lands, resources, and more. But yesterday, Fraser said that doesn't constitute a veto, even though the consent part sure sounds like a veto to me. Anyway, as I mentioned, he has now apologized, saying that his comments, quote, caused hurt and potentially eroded a very precarious trust that has been built up over many years to respect the rights of Indigenous people in this country. Once again, that is not an apology for me to accept or dismiss because I am not Indigenous. But I do think the true test of whether his government actually means like the sentiment behind that apology will come when we see how much Indigenous consultation and collaboration is included in this expedited process the government has promised to pursue for major projects. The last thing I want to mention that I was hoping to report on today is the fact that I reached out to the Foreign Affairs Department to request a comment from the Foreign Affairs Minister on the government's inaction when it comes to the genocide in Gaza. I was hoping to include that in today's video because the department has confirmed that they are going to send me something, but I haven't received that yet, so it's gonna have to wait until tomorrow. Hopefully I will see you back here for that video. But until then, what do you think of all this?